What's up there, Brotherhood? This is the Federation here, and I'm commentating another replay that I was not involved in. This one is going to be Koala Bear, and he's playing with somebody else from there, and it's going to be against CJ and Panther. Carthage is Janggun, and CJ and Panther are the opponents. So anyways, Koala has a Royal Scythian build of 3-step Noble Lancers on the left, and 2-step Noble Lancers on the right. He's got a Royal Horse Archer General, as well as 2 Scythian Royal Horse, 1 Scythian Royal Skirmisher, and 4-step Horse Archers. Carthage has 3 African Pikemen up front, backed up by 4 Libyan Peltasts, and a Cretan Archer. He's got 5 Libyan Infantry and a Sacred Band, as well as 2 Carthaginian cavalry and a general's bodyguard. So, as for the opponents, it is the Seleucids and Bactria. We've got 4 thorax swords, a line of 3 levy pikes, and 4 archers in behind, as well as 4 Hellenic cataphracts, and an Indian armored elephant as the general. Bactria's got 2 Indian armored elephants, a line of 6 levy pikes. How many is this? 4 Bactrian Peltasts, it looks like. 2 Scythian horse archers, 2 Bactrian royal cav, and 2 Bactrian noble horse. So, this is going to begin with a few horse archers coming in and firing at these Hellenic cataphracts, and they're not going to do too much damage, but they'll certainly get some HP down and make any upcoming cav fights more likely to go in the favor of Koala and Janggun. So Koala is going to push his horse archers forward, realizing the Seleucids don't really have a strong counter to them. They don't have any Eastern slingers or anything like that would just tear them up. So he's going to be a little bit more aggressive, keep trying to pin down these cataphracts and get some damage on them. And over on this flank, Koala is using his cavalry to just kind of keep the Bactrian player from engaging. So what they've got now is 1.5 armies facing off against the Seleucids, while the Bactrians are staying relatively isolated and far away, which will give them the local superiority over here. So Koala nearly gets his step horse archers caught, and it looks like he may lose 1 or 2, but pulls back through the woods and is going to manage to get away. And all this time, he's going to be firing arrows at these Hellenic cataphracts and get some nice back shots. And so even though the cataphracts are so heavily armored, they're going to take some losses from these back shots. I would assume Koala is on heavy shot at this point, which will give him some decent armor piercing. And there goes a good portion of one of the most powerful units on the field. So over here, Bactria is starting to chase with its cavalry and engage the Scythian cavalry. We've got 2 Scythian Royal Horse engaging an Eastern Spear and some Bactrian Royal Cav, as well as the Bactrian Noble Horse. But the problem is these Eastern Spears aren't very strong, and these Bactrian Royal Cav aren't the strongest either. They're not cataphracts, and personally, in my opinion, they're not worth the $12.50 you pay for them, considering cataphracts are only $170 more expensive, but some people like them for their ability to be much faster than a cataphract, and they tire out less quickly. But the problem is, in a fight against Steppe Noble Lancers and Scythian Royal Horse, they won't do nearly as well as a cataphract would. So in this prolonged engagement, Koala is able to keep the Bactrian army from engaging Janggun's army at all, while he still has 3 Steppe Noble Lancers and 4 Horse Archers, along with the main Carthaginian army that are dealing some damage to the Seleucids. So up here we've got the Carthaginian Peltasts beginning to fire at the pike line, and look at the damage these levy pikes are taking. Already down over 50 men, and they're constantly just having to reform since they're losing so many men. And almost instantly they're going to start routing. So it's at this point that the Seleucid thorax swordsmen decide to rush forward and realize they're coming up against pikemen, and quickly back out of that. So over on the far left flank, we've got Hellenic Cataphract being engaged by 3 Steppe Noble Lancers, and even as powerful as cataphracts are, that is not the type of fight they want to be in, outnumbered that significantly. So over here, Scythia looks to have cleaned up a lot of the Scythian Royal Horse, and they're now engaging Bactrian Noble Horse, or Bactrian Royal Cavalry, and is engaging the Bactrian Noble Horse. It looks like the Royal Skirmishers are now getting involved with the fight, which are a very powerful unit in melee as well as skirmishing, and I would assume that they're out of ammo by this point since they have such limited ammunition. But now the main infantry fight has begun, and it looks like the Libyan infantry have gotten in among the levy pikes without their pikes down, so that's going to hurt for levy pikes. And this thorax sword, instead of coming around the flank, is just kind of sitting here, and that's going to allow them to be exploited. We've got the Sacred Band fighting a thorax sword, which is not a good engagement for it, but it looks like the Sacred Band's been left in formation attack, so it's just going to hold really well. And it probably is not going to win against the thorax sword, but at least it will last long enough for Carthage to wrap up all these other infantry fights where Carthage does have the advantage before coming over to assist. So one Hellenic Cataphract has been killed. The other one is currently... Or sorry, no, this Cataphract is still being killed. The high armor has allowed it to last quite a long time. And the second one has not yet reached the battle to reinforce. But if this Hellenic Cataphract had come over here and hit right in the back of that cluster of units, it might have done quite a bit of damage, but instead it chooses to go for back charges on infantry and chase the general. Now we've got these exposed archers, which should fall pretty quickly. So you see with 1.5 armies facing off against the Seleucids, and Bactria not really helping too much. The Seleucids were not able to last very long. And so for the price of just these few cav who died over here, Carthage and Scythia were able to take out almost the entire Seleucid army at relatively few losses. So the goal for the Koala and Janggun was to isolate one opponent at a time and take them out, and they successfully did that. So Bactria has still turned the majority of its army towards a relatively few number of units. And it looks like Koala's gotten out of this cav engagement with most of his cav still pretty intact. And the same is true on this side, where they faced off against Cataphracts and several other units and came out pretty much all together. So right now we've got an isolated levy pike and another isolated levy pike, and when they're this outnumbered and they're not able to form any kind of a line, they're going to be in trouble. Because pikes are absolutely worthless from the side, and they're about to get hit by Sacred Band. So the Sacred Band are going to come in before the levy pikes have time to put down their sarissas, and that's going to be trouble for them. They're going to start taking some pretty heavy losses. And now Koala is able to take his cav, which were victorious on the left flank, and begin to pin the Bactrian player here to prevent any reinforcements, since the Carthaginians now have such superiority over on the left. So Bactria is going to start chasing with its armored elephants. Probably not the greatest idea, since there's so much ammunition left on these steppe horse archers, and they can easily take down elephants just by running away or firing with heavy shot, which quickly sends these guys berserk, and they're now going to start dropping pretty easily. So even if they do catch a couple of these steppe horse archers only cost 380, your Indian armored elephants cost 1500, not always the greatest engagement, unless you can catch steppe horse archers completely out of ammo and you can just run them over. So he is going to get a lot of these. It looks like they finally ran out of arrows, but at this point they've already lost all of their HP and should go down fairly easily to any other missiles, or even a cav charge should take down those Indian armored elephants. Now there is still one more unit of them running around, but these ones have also lost all of their HP, and they're also starting to go down. So the Bactrian player has been reduced to just these 3 Bactrian peltasts and a couple of levy pikes, which at this point should be no problem for the combined armies of Carthage and Scythia. So it looks like Koala is going to try to get in on this levy pike before they can get their pikes down, realize they're down, and pull out. And the Bactrian is going to be throwing their javelins right into this fight, which ended up taking out some of their own elephants, I should say. And so Carthage has gotten its Carthaginian cav into these Bactrian peltasts, which isn't going to do too much damage, seeing as Bactrian peltasts are heavily armored. They have the same armor as a pikeman, but it did give time for the Scythian Royal Horse Archers to get into the back of them, and while there's cavalry in them, they can't fire, and that's probably the most important part of getting your cavalry into these peltasts. Now Koala can send in another unit of Scythian Royal Horse, and with their 20 bonus versus infantry, that should start to take down these Bactrian peltasts relatively quickly. Over here, these Indian armored elephants have gone berserk. These ones have come back from being berserk, but they've already lost so many men it won't make much of a difference. These ones have just come back from being berserk, but in the time it took them to do that, they lost a couple more elephants, and now they are going to finish dying. So the Bactrian's making his final stand here. He's got a long line of pikes facing out and a long line of pikes facing this way, but since the Carthaginian player still has a few African pikemen left, which are a superior pike unit, even with fewer numbers they will cut up levy pikes, as well as some Libyan peltasts which could cut them down, and I believe he's still got a Cretan archer hanging around somewhere. Yeah, right there, which is almost certain to still have some ammunition left at this point. So now it's just going to be cleaning up the remains, and the Scythian horse are more than happy to do that. And it looks like these levy pikes are steadied, so they won't rout until the last man dies. But this one has lost its steady, so it should go any second, and there it goes. And this one has also lost steady, so it's about to go down. So quite the victory for Carthage and Scythia, doing very nicely to pick apart the armies and take them out one by one, achieving local superiority. So good game to everybody on all sides, and yeah, here we go. We have the names for who is who and how they did. And it looks like quite a few kills for these Scythian heavy cavalry. It looks like Janggun did quite well with his general's bodyguard. These peltasts were deadly. African pikes didn't do too much, but I'd imagine that's because they were targeted by skirmishers. And even these Gallic warriors did quite a bit. So we see CJ's stats and Panthers. Obviously stayed out of the fight for quite a while, as he was isolated by Koala's cav, which are harassing him. And the Seleucid cataphracts did not do quite as much damage as you might hope. But anyways, good game to all involved. It was a fun replay to watch and commentate over, and I hope you all enjoyed.